Live in San Francisco, it's Rex Broadcasting Wrestling Observer with Dave Meltzer and Bryan Alvarez.
Are you ready? Are you ready?
Let's get it on!
How's it going, everybody? This is Dave Meltzer. We're going to be here for the next 2 hours talking pro wrestling. We got Bryan Alvarez here. In our second hour, we're going to have POLACO, just incredible. We'll talk about, you can talk to him about current WWE, or fairly current since he was with the company until just a couple of months ago, as well as the indie scene. We'll talk a lot about Major League Wrestling, Ring of Honor, and some of the other groups around the country. You want to talk about them, they'll be here. So anyway, we can talk about that. Bryan, how was your week?
My week was very long.
And were you on the road? I know you were on the road for a couple days.
Yeah, we had the show in Kennewick, the AWA show, where I beat the former World Wrestling Federation champion and Patriot, who was not only not a former World Wrestling Federation champion, but...
It was not even the Patriot.
It wasn't even the Patriot. But, yeah. No, actually, that was really fun. That was really fun.
Who was the Patriot?
He works as the... I forget his name. I'll think of it in a minute. But, yeah, it was not Tom Brandy either.
Oh, okay. And how was Buff Bagwell?
Bagwell was very well behaved at the show, and we had to head back to Seattle, so I left when they were heading to the ring. So I don't even know how the match went, but I heard it went like 5 minutes, and there were people who were very unhappy about that. But, you know, he was well behaved, shook hands with everybody, said hi, made sure to alert everyone to tell the Internet that he was a good guy. That was that.
That's kind of funny.
That was entertaining.
Yeah. Let's see. Very interesting week in wrestling. Wednesday was the TNA 1 Cent show, and the reviews that I got, you know, on the website, we asked people like, you know, who had never. Basically, I was looking for people who'd never seen the product before, what they thought, and they were not that positive. I don't know if anyone complained about the price, although there were a lot of screw ups all over the country with cable companies. I'll tell you what, the cable or pay-per-view industry, they do not alert their employees too much because, you know, especially when it comes to a fringe show, because people were calling up about the 1 Cent show and the people on the phone lines had no idea what they were talking about. Then this happened all over the country. And you would think
it's happened for a while with people calling to ask about TNA, and the guy goes, "What's TNA?"
What's TNA? Wrestling's on Sunday, yeah. Well, that's what happens when you don't get a lot of buys. They don't really know that you exist.
Love Machine, that was the guy's name.
Love Machine? No, you did not wrestle Love Machine.
Not Art Barr, the current Love Machine.
I didn't know there was a current Love Machine.
Yes.
Wow.
Also wrestled as Mean Street Matt on the same show, or he was supposed to.
Okay.
Yeah. A lot of double duties on the show.
Okay, well, we are going to get back, and we're going to be talking a little bit about TNA, plus Tuesday SmackDown from Raleigh, which will air on Thursday night with Brock Lesnar and Kurt Angle going 1 hour. And we'll talk about that and take your phone calls. You're listening to Wrestling Observer Live on the Sports Byline Radio Network. Okay, welcome back to Wrestling Observer Live. I'm Dave Meltzer, editor of the Wrestling Observer Newsletter with Bryan Alvarez, Figure 4 Weekly. And don't forget, second hour, we're going to have just incredible POLACO as our guest for the first time on this show in I think it's almost 4 years or 3 years. Can you believe we used to have him on when he was in ECW all the time? Then
it's been 4 years.
I think it's been. Well, let's see. No, 3 years. It's been 3 years, but it's been a long time.
Yeah.
So anyway, yeah, because he went to WWE and then we never had him on again. Let's see. The TNA show for a penny. Did you actually watch the show by any chance?
Nope.
You did not. Okay.
No.
I kind of did. I mean, I did. But I'd seen it all before. But I know one was complaining about the price, but a lot of people, less people liked it than I expected. I don't know what people were expecting from it. Although I did see the one negative of the show, you know, the first 2 matches were really good. Now, but if you didn't want to like the Ultimate X match, you know, because of the concept, then you're not going to like that match. The cage match was a great match, but a lot of people just don't know those 4 guys. And then you got all those matches with Raven and Jeff Jarrett and AJ Styles, one after the other, with all the run-ins and all the ref bumps. And when you watch them one after the other, it's, you know what I mean? You really see that drawback, you know, the booking of the show, which they're theoretically toning down on. You know, they're doing I can't believe they're doing the Raven Shane Douglas hair match this Wednesday with almost no build-up.
Well, I think the idea was, I think they figured that there would be 1 million people ordering the 1 Cent show, and that would be the build-up. That you need to tune in this week. Don't take a week off or whatever. It's going to be this week. We're doing the hair match, so buy it now. And I think that was probably the mindset.
I know that's the mindset. totally disagree with it. The 60-minute match will be coming up on Tuesday in Raleigh, North Carolina. And, I mean, it's funny because during the week about a week ago, I talked to Dory Funk Jr. for an article in this week's Observer on 60-minute matches because he's been in more 60-minute matches than any man alive, actually. And we were talking about, like, you know, how hard it is to do, like, lots of long matches in a one-week period. And that's doing the old style of 30 years ago. That's not today's style, which is doing 60 minutes is much harder today than it would be then. So anyway, Brock Lesnar and Kurt Angle to get ready. They did a 40-minute match last night, and I think that the idea is they're going to do 40-minute matches every night this week, so by the time they get to Tuesday, they're going to be hurting so bad.
They're going to be dead.
The idea is to build up their stamina for the long match because they've never done it before. Kurt Angle, you know, I think Brock's longest match would probably be about, you know, maybe 20, 25 minutes. Kurt's longest match was 31 minutes. So they're basically both doubling their longest match ever. Although Brock did go, 90 minutes with Antonio Inoki?
That's right. And that was a shoot.
That was a shoot. That's right. It just kept going and going, and the guy never got tired.
Inoki is something. You know what I mean?
Yeah, Inoki's something. He is. Some of you might think that we're making this one up. That story is totally true.
And Brock Lesnar himself told that story on this very show.
On this very show, that's right. About how, and he didn't know it was Antonio Inoki.
Yeah, he's like this crazy old Japanese guy. He just keeps going.
I wrestled him.
He was like, good.
Yeah,
he's not good now, but.
But anyway, that's how they're getting ready for it by doing 40-minute matches. So, boy, come Wednesday, those guys are going to sure want that break.
Oh, yeah.
But could be one of the classic matches of modern times. If they're not hurting too bad by the time they get there.
Well, I think. Well, yeah.
I mean, I'm sure they're gonna. I'm sure it's gonna be a great match no matter what. What?
They'll get through it.
Oh, I have no doubt they will. I have no doubt it's gonna be a great match.
Mm-hmm.
Not a doubt in my mind. Pay-per-view Sunday, Triple H against Bill Goldberg. You know, now it's been how many months since they've been wanting to do the match, and how many times they were supposed to tune up matches at house shows, and do you realize they're going to go in with exactly one real match together under their belt, which was the San Jose match I saw a couple months ago? Because last Friday night was the last tune-up, and they turned it into a tag match. Because Hunter's not ready to do a single match. So
I wonder if they'll do 2 minutes.
They will not do 2 minutes. They're going to do 20 minutes. You know that.
I know.
I mean, if he can't walk, he's going to do 20 minutes. Wasn't there? Who was the guy? Was he wrestling Michaels when he couldn't walk?
Yeah, and that was the best of 3 falls.
Yeah, it just went on forever and ever and ever.
Yeah.
And yeah, he had to do for like 40 minutes anyway. I got a question, and this is, what is the deal with Hidehiko Yoshida? Do you have any opinion on this mindset of people who refuse to I don't know what the word is. I mean, it's I've never seen anything in my life about people who just this guy is good and they just refuse to admit it. And I mean, it's not like it's some guy who won an Olympic gold medal in judo.
I think what it is that it's gotten to the point now where MMA fans think that you can only be great if you're totally well-rounded. Like the striking, the ground game, everything. And here's this guy that comes in that is pure judo, and he's beating all these guys that are well-rounded fighters, and they can't believe that it could happen. It's impossible that this could happen, even though it's actually happening.
It's happened time after time.
Yeah, but I think that there's just it's so against what everybody has thought about fighting in the year 2003 that they can't even believe that it could possibly happen that way.
Okay, but if you know what I think is also,
and it's in pride.
Yeah. Okay. Well,
I don't understand how pride really operates.
Actually, they think they understand it more than they do understand it.
Well, that's the whole thing. Because
pride has done work matches, and you know what it is? They have no, you know what I mean? I think that fight fans that aren't wrestling fans just have absolutely, and I mean no concept of what the word work means or of what a work is.
Yeah.
I mean, they think that they cry work, 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 and I mean there've been work matches in Pride, and they're obvious, and they're very obvious the ones that are. I think you know what I think started it. Number one was he came in and he beat Hoist Gracie, and it was a bad call. Mm-hmm. But you know what? He was going to beat Hoist Gracie anyway. I mean, I watched that fight again, and I watched the position Hoist was in. He was getting out.
Yeah.
Okay. But there's all these jiu-jitsu people, and they've been brainwashed to the idea that a judo guy can never be a jiu-jitsu guy, especially a hero like Hoist. And he had him. He was a bigger guy. he had him beat. That's all there was to it. They called it early. I hear people complaining. I heard people complaining that if he was any kind of a man when they called it early, which they did, it was a premature stoppage, that he wouldn't have accepted the win. And I've been thinking, in all of the UFC fights and Pride fights that we've seen, where let's say they err on the side of caution, which this would have been as well, where you call the match before the guy's arm is broken, or you call it about one punch too early. Have you ever seen the guy who won just go, you know what, ref, you called it one punch too early. I want to keep this fight going. I won't accept the victory.
Yeah.
But they're all on Yoshida's case for not for accepting that victory.
Yeah.
Then he went and fought Don Fry, and Don Fry was such a hero to people and a badass, and it's like, why didn't Don Fry punch him out? And if you ever watch that fight, which I've watched now 3 times in the last week, Don Fry was on his back after he threw 2 jabs and he was on his back. And I'm sorry, but on your back, you're not punching nobody out, And when Don Fry fought Mark Coleman, he didn't punch Mark Coleman out either because he was on his feet a hell of a lot longer than he was against Yoshida. And Yoshida is a great ground guy. And anyone with a brain would know that once you're on the ground with an Olympic judo gold medalist, that Don Fry is going to be in trouble. And he was, and he got his elbow dislocated. And I'm still, people refuse to admit that, even with pictures. Photographs, or just watch the tape. You see the guy's elbow pop out if you watch the tape, and they just, it's a work. Then, what was the last one? Tamura. I mean, I don't even want to talk about it. I so had it with the Yoshida stuff. I wrote a big article. You got to read the article, Bryan. I mean, it's hilarious.
That's next on my list. I got through the 60-minute thing, and then the show is about to start, so that's next.
Yeah, that's right. An article on all the 60-minute matches. That was actually pretty good, too.
Yeah, very interesting.
Yeah. Anyway, let's see. We are going to start with Jonathan in Savannah. Jonathan, what's going on?
Hey, what's going on, guys?
Not too much.
I had a couple questions for you. My first question is about the Raw announcing team. And with, I guess, that match coming up on the pay-per-view with Coachman and Snow versus Lawler and Ross, and if there's any slim chance that Coach and Snow actually win.
Yes, there's a slim chance.
Is there?
There is a slim chance. Yeah,
Why?
Why? Because people think that they're writing entertainment and the announcers don't count. And, they think the announcer should be good looking. I saw, by the way, I finally saw Rue last night because I was out of town. And I was in a city where, I guess it was Afterburn, I'm not sure which show, I was just flipping channels, and there was Josh Matthews and Rue. And I mean, I'm just watching this, and Josh knows wrestling. He's not a particularly good announcer, but he knows wrestling. And Rue doesn't know anything about anything. And I'm going like, what is she doing here? And there she was. And then, Coachman still got a job. What can that tell you? What's that tell you? I mean, he's been there for 5 years, and he can't commentate on wrestling because he's too busy, because he thinks that it's beneath him, and he thinks he's a playboy and all that. And, it's like, what's he still doing there? Seriously.
You know what the thing about Coachman is? If Coachman worked at ESPN and his day job was calling real sports, and he came in one day a week to call wrestling, and he sort of thought it was a joke, that'd be one thing. But this is, like, his job.
I know, but he came from a real sports background because he was a real athlete, and then he was a real sportscaster in Kansas City.
Yeah, but it's like his job now.
I know, but he thinks that it's like wrestling is like a joke, and how can you take it seriously because he's a real sports guy. So the idea of, like, studying on something that's, like, fake, to him, it's just like, can anyone do this? He's got... Now, I understand why that's completely stupid, but I also understand where he's coming from. But, with that attitude, how do you last this many years?
Yeah.
I don't know. Anything else, Jonathan?
Yeah, Dave, is there any way I can hold on, and I'll be real quick to win the break?
No problem. Okay, we'll be back with more right after this. You're listening to Wrestling Observer Live on the Sports Byline Radio Network. Okay, welcome back to Wrestling Observer Live. I'm Dave Meltzer, editor of the Wrestling Observer Newsletter with Bryan Alvarez of Figure 4 Weekly. We've got a full bank of calls. You can call us at 1-800-877-PLAY, but you're going to have to wait until we hang up on one of these calls. But if you're interested in the latest info on pro wrestling, you can always go to www.wrestlingobserver.com. Daily updates plus information on how to get copies of the Wrestling Observer newsletter that I put out every week and Figure 4 Weekly that Bryan puts out every week. They are, if you don't get them, I can't impress upon you strongly enough how much entertainment value you are missing out of wrestling by not reading them, especially Figure 4. Some of the stuff is just tremendous as far as entertaining, and the Observer News all over the world. We've been doing a lot of history stuff. We did the history of the 60-minute matches. In the current issue, and next week's issue is going to be about pro wrestling in the early 90s and actually what led to the near demise of both WWF and WCW. Really, the Monday Night Wars turned them around. But what was at the time a half-flourishing wrestling industry and almost took it down to nothing. And a lot of stuff on that. And Ric Flair going to WWF and the Zahorian trial and just a lot of goodies in that year. But be a very good history piece for those of you who lived through it, and for those of you who didn't live through it, it's pretty good learning because you're going to watch it happen again. Is that about right?
That's encouraging.
Well,
Did you watch Confidential last night?
I did not. I have a tape waiting. I was out of town, so I did not. Did you see it?
No, I haven't seen it yet either.
No. I got a lot of emails from people that weren't happy with it, though, so I got this feeling I may not be happy with it, too.
Oh, boy.
But I don't know what was said, so I haven't seen it. And I got, oh my God, all the emails about the fight last night. Oh.
You know, I was at a Subway at like 9:50, and there were like two people in there, and they were arguing about the fight, and I thought, oh, this must be a good one.
Yeah, apparently, again, I missed the fight too. But I was at a wedding, okay, and it was in another city, and it was a Mexican couple. And so
the wedding go on as planned?
The wedding went on as planned, no problem. And the reception, they had this big hall, and nobody was there. And I was thinking, like, I'm here. I want to watch this fight more than, like, anyone. And they, you know, that's like, why did they pick this night to have this reception? Because it's like, in that community, it's like, what's going to be bigger than an Oscar De La Hoya fight?
Yeah.
So anyway, nobody was there but me. And I didn't even know until...
So at least you got a lot of food.
I did. That's true. And then, so I finally, I really didn't know who won until I got home this morning.
Oh.
And then looked in the paper and, you know, saw that. Then I started playing my phone messages, and my friends were, like, swearing on the phone about the decision. And I started getting my emails, and everyone's complaining about the decision. And then I got other people saying the decision was just fine. So we'll see. I don't have anything more to say about it other than when you go the distance, if you don't dominate, you got to accept the decision.
Yeah.
That's all there is to it. We're going to go, we're going to Aaron in Lincoln, Nebraska. What's going on, Aaron?
Hey, I'm good, Dave. How are you?
I'm doing pretty good.
Hey, Bryan, the figure four was absolutely hilarious this weekend.
Oh, thank you.
I was actually laughing out loud.
I do that every week. Especially that Frank Gotch stuff. Oh, my God.
Yeah, that's just great. It really is.
Yeah, it is.
Did it cause any marital problems with you, did it?
What's that?
Did it cause any marital problems?
No. I got a good one for you this week, though. You know what happened?
Uh-oh.
Okay. As I was leaving, you know, I was thinking for sure, since I'm going out of town, figure four is not going to come till Monday. And then I'm going to be all stressed, you know, on Monday because I got to finish the Observer, right?
Yeah.
So I go to the post office first thing in the morning Saturday, and it's there. So anyway, drive down, you know, 3-hour drive. Get there and big fight. I go, that's it. I'm leaving. So I just like it was almost like staged. So I left, went in the car, read figure four for a half hour, came back, and everybody was happy to see me by then because they thought I'd really left.
Oh, there you go.
So there you go. It was perfect. Now when this story comes out, I'm really dead, huh?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, keep going, Aaron.
I got the one set show on Wednesday.
Uh-huh.
And I also got here, they showed the replay of last week's show before it. So
that last week's show's the real good one.
Yeah, that was, this was the first time I had ever purchased it. And the last week's show, at least the X tournament blew me away. I mean, Juventud was off the charts.
The first hour and 20 minutes was the best stuff that was the best show that they've ever done.
Yeah, I was glad. I mean, it was worth the $9.95 or whatever. The second show, you know, I thought the Ultimate X was kind of a train wreck. I mean, I liked it, but the cage match was better, definitely. That was neat to see. I was kind of wondering, I haven't seen Hoovy at all since WCW collapsed, or he was fired, I guess, whatever. How good is he?
When he's at his best, he's as good as he was the other day. Yeah. Which is pretty darn great. But a lot of times you don't get that Hoovy. But I think he's finally growing up and realizing, because he got a big head, you know, because he had so much. You know, I started watching Hoovy probably when he was, I'm guessing, 17, 18 years old, and he was so good so early. Mm-hmm. And guys like that, it's tough on them because they get a big head because they have too much talent for their maturity level.
For their own good.
Yeah, for their own good. And Hoovy was like that, and Hoovy had a lot of problems because of it. And, you know, that's why he's not in WWE right now, because they're in a cruiserweight there, including Ray, who has more natural talent than Hoovy.
Yeah, I would agree with that. Otherwise, I just thought the one cent show, it was fine. I mean, recap shows, you know, it was kind of like watching Afterburn or something like that. But it was fine.
Did it compel you to ever order again?
You know, it did. If this will sound bad, but I'll probably order again if I read the recap on the Observer website, and you know, it sounds like a blowaway or something. Then I'll probably order a replay. But I'd have a hard time ordering it on the first air unless it was something I knew, you know, I can't miss. Maybe, you know, another X tournament next year or something like that.
Yeah. I really think, you know, after getting the response to the 1 cent show, that they just desperately need weekly TV.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I think that was the entire point of why they did the 1 cent show in the first place.
Oh, it expose a lot of people, but...
Yeah, they don't have it, so they had to create it for 1 week.
Yeah, but, you know, I wonder how many people actually bought it.
That'll be really interesting to see.
Yeah, I mean,
how did it go as far as feedback? Because our feedback is usually pretty...
Well, it was more than usual, but it wasn't like, you know, WWF.
WWF levels?
Mm-hmm. No, and it wasn't even like, you know, the last Pride level.
Yeah.
So, you know, and those didn't, you know...
1,000 people, probably.
What? You know, how many people bought it? I don't know. You know, but I got 50,000 people, put it that way, even bought it. 15? I'm sure 15, because that's what they get for a normal, you know, they get almost that for a normal show. Because I think they're probably averaging about 10 to 12.
What was funny about it, watching the 1 cent show to me, was that everything I read about in the recaps and I've read about in the newsletter and stuff about the shows is absolutely true. I mean, all the run-ins, you know, Jeff Jarrett, just watching recaps of feuds and stuff, it's just too much overkill on him. The whole deal where he was handcuffed and has 5 guys beating on him and still comes back to win. And, you know, Russo towering over everybody, towering over AJ Styles and wearing the belt and everything. It's ridiculous.
Yeah, Russo and Don West did not come off very good in all the reviews.
Yeah, I wasn't impressed with Don West either.
Don West is an acquired taste because actually I like Don West now. Now, I didn't at first, but at first he knew nothing about wrestling.
Mm-hmm.
But Don West, because he's a sports guy, has very good wrestling instinct, and he's learned a lot in 1 year. And I like the enthusiasm, but you definitely got to get used to it. It's not something that you're going to like the first week.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But they did very well in almost every review.
You know, they should have brought back for the highlight show was the very first time that Don West did his hard sell.
Oh, just to show how much he's improved?
No, because that very first hard sell was so great.
Yeah, I guess.
He really got into it that first time.
He's into it every week.
Now it's kind of like it's comedy now, but the first time was so great.
Yeah, yeah. Anything else, Aaron?
No, that's all I got. You guys have a nice evening.
Okay, thank you very much, Aaron. We will go to Tom in Atlanta. Tom, what's going on?
Hey, Dave. A few quick questions for you on the upcoming Triple H Goldberg match. You know there's a difference between jobbing to somebody and putting them over. Do you think he'll just A, job to Goldberg, B, like completely put him over, or C, put him over, but put him over with something like reminiscent of Undertaker and Brock, where he'll say like, you put me over, you know, you beat me, but if I was 100%, then, you know, I would have beaten you.
All of the above.
All of the above. The same match.
This is the clean win part and the elevation part.
There'll be no elevation, don't you think?
Well, Goldberg's already there. You know, it's not like Goldberg needs to be elevated like, you know, like somebody like Rob Van Dam or Booker T that has never had a big run as a main eventer.
Right.
And the people accept Goldberg on top. So Hunter doesn't have to elevate him. He just has to put him over in the right way. I mean, we know he's going to put him over. Will it be the right way? I'm guessing no. You know, we'll find out now. Hopefully I'm wrong.
I think the right way would be like all of Evolution running in, Goldberg destroying all of them, and then spearing and jackhammering Hunter and winning.
And in 7 minutes or less.
Yeah, that's not good. I can see that same finish happening in 20 minutes after a ref bump where Hunter gets a pin and there's no one there to count.
Yeah, but the problem with the 20 minutes is then you start exposing Goldberg. Because
I'm just telling you that's what I see happening.
Oh, I do too, because I saw the Scott Steiner match, you know, both of them, and both of them, I mean, it was like so obvious that they shouldn't go more than 10 minutes, and they went over 10 minutes both times, and they were crummy matches. And so I see the same thing happening, even though Hunter's hurt, you know, I mean, we talked about the Shawn match, you know.
Do you think in hindsight now that was sabotage?
No, I think it was, a combination of fake ego which turned into sabotage. How's that?
Okay.
Because Triple H thinks he's Ric Flair, and hey, when Ric Flair was in his prime, he did 20-minute matches with guys that bad. But the other thing is that fans had more patience in those days than they do now. I mean, like...
And he's not Ric Flair.
He's not Ric Flair. That's true. We're going to go ahead to a break right now. We'll be back with more right after this. You're listening to Wrestling Observer Live on the Sports Byline Radio Network. Okay, welcome back to Wrestling Observer Live. I'm Dave Meltzer, editor of the Wrestling Observer Newsletter, with Bryan Alvarez of Figure 4 Weekly. And we're going to head back to the phone calls and go to Long Island, New York, and Chris. Chris, what's going on?
Hey, how's it going?
It's going pretty good.
I have a couple questions, actually, mainly about Vince and just how I've been reading the Observer lately, a lot of things about Benoit when he was supposed to be elevated and Jericho, when Heyman was in charge. And recently with the Cena thing where he called, for Taker to win at the last minute, he always likes to brag about having so much balls and being like, this innovator and taking risks with the XFL or within the wrestling business and everything.
I wouldn't brag about the XFL, but that's not the story.
But I mean, as far, I know, he likes to brag that he had the balls to go up against the NFL or
I don't know if balls is the word for stupidity.
That's what I'm saying. But he won't go ahead and pull the trigger on simply just putting guys on the undercard who are ready to go over. And, have him go over the guys that he's been with forever that he thinks are still his...
Maybe
he doesn't think they're ready to go over.
He doesn't. When push comes to shove, he doesn't think any of those guys are ready because Vince is a big guy, and he thinks that if they're smaller than him, then, no one believes they're tough because he doesn't believe they're tough.
Well, what was his reasoning for Cena? Because Cena's one of the few guys that's,
Well, Undertaker, let's look, Vince is programming Undertaker against himself. So I think that, he decided to protect the guy who's going to feud with him rather than elevate the guy who's going to feud with Eddie Guerrero.
Well, that's the problem because he's putting himself in so many angles too, and there's nobody there to tell him to stop. Because
you're right. There's nobody there to tell him to stop because if they were, they wouldn't be there the next day.
Yeah, because nobody gives a damn when the McMahons are wrestling anymore. It's obvious. I mean, it hasn't boosted the ratings, really. It hasn't boosted house show attendance. It hasn't done really anything for
Well, I mean, McMahons do pretty well for ratings, but for house show attendance, none whatsoever. They don't help.
It hasn't really helped the show as a whole. I mean, they may get a good quarter out, whatever, but,
Yeah, I mean, I think there's too much. I get a kick out of Vince in small doses, but when he's...
Oh, yeah, he's a great character when he's used right. But when he's
there too much, Stephanie and Shane... I can just do without both of them, and I wouldn't miss them at all.
How'd you like when they signed Steph for the main event and Vince goes, that's big ratings, that's big money?
Yeah, I know. I mean, just when she talks, it's just like,
Rating.
Yeah, that voice, it's just like every week, it's like, God, quit taking the China pills,
Yeah, really.
I didn't like China either, Why do I need to see this clone of China that doesn't go to the gym?
Yeah, really. Well, it's because it's his little daughter or whatever, and then,
Yeah, well, she didn't look like she used to look.
No, she doesn't. And what happened with the cat? Because was the story true that Vince finally got a chance to see Velocity and said... No,
the story is that they want him to be a wrestler. That's the story.
Isn't that the reason they made him an announcer in the first place, though? Was just to try out, they didn't like him, so they made him an announcer? Or?
Yeah, it's because they thought he was a crummy wrestler, but they thought that he was really colorful, so they gave him a job as an announcer. Yeah, that's how he got his announcing job.
So they're going to go back to putting him in as a wrestler?
Yes, they are.
Yeah, because they have no...
Hey, there was a big lawsuit settlement of close to $10 million, and I think that they just want to make sure that they have plenty of African Americans on that roster.
Oh, yeah, well, that's true, yeah. I didn't even think about that. They probably are doing it for that reason and not for the right reasons, yeah. My other question was just about TNA real quick. The way the wrestlers get paid, is that just kind of on a per show basis, or
yes.
Is there like
yes, they all get paid
like a cut of the pay-per-views?
No. They all get paid on a per show basis. There might be some profit sharing and stuff, but there's no profit, so that doesn't really mean anything.
Right, the Jarrett.
Yeah.
And they do have a little bit of merchandise, so they probably do a little bit of merchandising, or.
I haven't heard of anybody making any significant money on merchandise there.
Yeah, because it's not selling, but I mean, they would if it was. Like,
yeah. If they had big merchandise, of course, the guys would get some money out of it. But but they need to get some great TV before that's going to happen.
Okay. All right, that's pretty much it. I just wanted to plug the Observer Live chat room, and that's pretty much it. I'll talk to you guys soon.
Okay, good enough. Let's go to Jeffrey in New York. Jeffrey, what's going on?
Hey, what's going on, guys? First, I just want to say I'm very disappointed in the Jets again. The second thing I want to talk about is something that Wade Keller said a few weeks ago on the Torch about Triple H. And I'm not sure if he's right, so I want you to clear it up. He said there's a misconception that Triple H is blamed for everything, which I can agree with. But he said specifically that, everybody thinks that Triple H has such influence that he controls everyone's storylines, but he claims that that's not true. He just cares about his storylines. But then I was thinking about a few months ago, why the hell did he come in and pedigree Hurricane for no reason? So I'm not sure.
That was his story because it was his storyline.
Yeah, that was involved. The Hurricane was getting involved in something he was in. So.
Yeah. Oh. No. I mean, he's not out there. Put it this way.
He's not booking the Rodney Mack matches or anything like that.
I would seriously doubt. However, the head writer is his girlfriend, fiance. They're going to be married in just a couple of weeks. And anything that he has an opinion on, that opinion is listened to. So if he has an opinion on Rodney Mack, odds are that's going to happen too. But I mean, I don't think that he does. I think he's more concerned with his own program and he's more in control of his own program. But I mean, I remember when Brock Lesnar first came in and they weren't going to do the pinfalls, and they were doing the knockout finishes.
Mm-hmm.
He was the one who nixed it. And he was not, about to feud with Brock Lesnar at that time. They weren't even going in that direction. So again, it's something like.
Well, in a way, it did relate to him.
It did relate. No, I know, but
not directly.
Yeah, and that's exactly it. It did relate to him, and that's why he voiced his opinion, and that's why it got changed. So, yeah.
And my other question is about, I guess, some of the strongest guys right now in the world of pro wrestling and mixed martial arts. Aside from Mark Henry, who do you think is probably like the strongest guy? Because I think it was SummerSlam or some pay-per-view, I can't remember, when Brock Lesnar just powerbombed the Big Show. I was very impressed with his strength.
I think man-on-man strength.
Big Show.
Oh, Brock Lesnar's much stronger man-on-man than Big Show. When they lock up, Big Show throws him around like a rag doll. People who've seen, when they did the wrestling stuff backstage, they say it's like really entertaining to watch how he can overpower him. And Big Show himself says, that Brock's much stronger than him. But Big Show, is very powerful.
Yeah.
Brock Lesnar, I would think man-on-man power. He's a 750 squatter, and that's a lot of weight. I mean, it's not. Mark Henry can do more, but I don't know if anyone else in. God, who else would be? I would think Cena is pretty strong. Who else would be really strong? They don't have like it's not like in the old. Scott Steiner's very
injured now, but I'll bet he was.
Scott Steiner's very strong. No, he is. He's a strong guy. Bill Goldberg is very strong. Hunter's very strong.
No, China benched more than Hunter.
Yeah, but now I've talked to people who watched Hunter train. Hunter's a strong guy. Now, you got to remember that Hunter was 215. This Hunter's 275.
Yeah,
big difference.
My last question actually is just hopefully a short one. Frank Shamrock, I just had a match not too long ago. I can't remember with who.
Brian Pardo in what city was it? I was at the match.
You were at the match.
Yeah, it was like somewhere near Lemoore, California. That's where it was. Oh, God, was that a brutal night? Like 4-hour drive to the middle of nowhere. This Indian casino in the middle of nowhere.
Oh my God, that was me this weekend.
Yeah. Anyway, yes, what were you gonna ask about the fight?
No, not that particular fight, but since you've seen Frank Shamrock now, how do you think he compares to some of the other fighters in this class right now, the current crop? So even I would even consider like Tito from the UFC and other guys from.
Well, I don't think that Frank should be fighting 205-pound guys. I mean, he did, and he beat them all. And he beat guys even bigger than 205 when he was fighting, but it's a different game now. I mean, you really need to fight your own weight class. And Frank, realistically should be fighting at 170. I mean, because his natural weight's 185. I mean, if he was at 170 and he trained his ass off and got in great shape, I think he could be competitive with anyone. At 185, I think in his best condition, he could be competitive with anyone. Could he go in there and beat everyone? Like right in a row, like he did a few years ago? No, I don't think anyone could. I think that the game's just the level of competition is too tough. But 205 is those guys. I think they're too big for him now, and they're too skilled. But at 185, 170, no. I mean, he could handle them. He's not. He's a pretty good kickboxer. He's awesome at submissions. It's kind of he kind of downplays it, himself because he tries to mark himself more as a kickboxer. But he's awesome at submissions. He's not a great wrestler. So a great wrestler, like Matt Hughes, that that might be tough, but, you know, I mean, in 25 minutes, if they were to have a match, I wouldn't be surprised if Frank Shamrock could submit him. But he would be on his back for much of the fight against Matt Hughes.
Wow. Okay, thanks a lot, guys. Have a good night.
Okay, very welcome. Let's go to Alan in Deerfield Beach. Alan, what's going on?
Hey, how's it going, Dave?
Going pretty good.
All right, I wanted to ask you the article that was on Pro Wrestling Torch website about Kurt Angle at Worcester State Fair or whatever, talking about Brock Angle's his best friend, right?
Brock Angle? Do you mean Brock Lesnar?
Did I say Brock Angle?
Yeah, you did.
Sorry. Brock Lesnar is his best friend. I had heard like 6 months to a year ago, and it was in a newspaper, Utica newspaper, that there was a fight backstage between them. Did that happen or no?
They never had a fight. They had a wrestling match in Fargo, North Dakota, and Kurt won.
Oh, really?
Yeah. But that's probably a year ago, I'm thinking.
Yeah, it was a while ago.
It was a long time ago.
Like friendly competition?
Yeah, like friendly competition, but Brock wasn't really that happy when it was over because I think Brock was much younger and much bigger and extremely confident that he was going to win. So when it was over, you know, I mean, they were not friendly going into it. I mean, they were, you know, they're friendly now, but going into it, I mean, yeah, because people would ask. It was one of those things that happened.
Like they were going to beat each other up.
No, nothing like that. But people had been going to Brock. You know, what would happen if you wrestled Kurt? And Brock would always say, "I'm too big for him. I would beat him." And Kurt would, you know, constantly call him out. You know, basically, and say, you know what I mean. And finally Brock listened to Kurt call him out and said, "Okay, you know, we'll have a wrestling match." And Kurt beat him.
Okay. And I wanted to ask you something else. I know you didn't see the piece on Billy Graham, but Billy actually went on and said, I lied about everything I said about McMahon. Do you think this is a condition for him to publish his book? He's kind of sold out?
If he said... yeah.
Yeah, that's what he basically said.
I mean, I think that, you know, he lied about certain things. I mean, like Pat Patterson stuff. You know, a lot of the stuff on the steroids, you know, I mean... Yeah, I mean, most of that stuff's proved to be true in you know, all kinds of, you know, in McMahon's own wrestlers testified to the same thing when they were in court.
He said he was totally fabricating it, and obviously Vince has got him right where, you know.
Well, I think that...
something about how everything that people said about steroids was true.
What? Did he say? I haven't seen the piece.
Oh, yeah, he did, but he said that McMahon didn't distribute or do anything to...
Well, no, he never said McMahon distributed. McMahon never did distribute. That's true. Believe me, I talked to Graham more than anyone, so I know everything. I know what he said. He never said that Vince McMahon distributed steroids. You know, I mean, he said some things that weren't true. He said a lot that was true. I mean, if he says that everything he said wasn't true, that's not true. He said
he said I lied about everything. The whole lawsuit that I had against McMahon was fabricated. He basically made himself look like, never mind.
Well, on the lawsuit against McMahon was a tough one because, you know, he only worked for the company for a couple of years and he took steroids for 25 years. So the lawsuit was a weak lawsuit against Titan Sports. The lawsuit against the drug companies was a little bit stronger, and he did get a settlement from them. So, you know.
I want to ask you something else. I know you...
Well, hold on just a second because we got to go to a break. And also, you can call us at 1-800-878-PLAY because we got a couple of lines open. We're back right after this. You're listening to Wrestling Observer Live on the Sports Byline Radio Network. Okay, welcome back to Wrestling Observer Live. I'm Dave Meltzer, editor of the Wrestling Observer Newsletter. Bryan Alvarez, Figure 4 Weekly, second hour. PJ POLACO, just incredible. We'll be talking about the indie scene, WWE, his career, in our second hour. We're going back to Alan. Alan, what's up?
We were talking about, you mentioned about Patterson and Graham.
Yes.
The problems between them. I know that they were, you know, for 15 years they didn't talk. Did they talk backstage at SummerSlam?
No, they did not. They have not talked. They still haven't talked. Patterson. Now, you know, Patterson's never forgiven Graham. No.
Okay, and just real quick, because I know you're going to go to the next call. The Sheik was bashing Hogan on the radio show and stuff.
Iron Sheik, yeah. I mean,
is there heat between them or what?
I guess there is.
Right? It looks that way, don't it?
Yeah. Well, Sheik's.
Is he working?
He's not working for a match because it didn't happen. I can tell you that. Yeah, no, I mean, I think, you know, the Sheik is probably bitter now. You know, he thought he put Hogan over and Hogan should have taken care of him for life. And I don't know. You know, that's just bitterness. I don't think that's
welcome back to Hour 2 of the Wrestling Observer with Dave Meltzer and Bryan Alvarez.
Are you ready?
Let's get it on!
Okay, welcome to the second hour here on Wrestling Observer Live. I'm Dave Meltzer, editor of the Wrestling Observer Newsletter, with Bryan Alvarez of Figure 4 Weekly, and we'll have Just Incredible up in just a couple of minutes. We have one line open. You can call us at 1-877-PLAY, and we're going to get to Jonathan, who actually called earlier and was mistakenly cut off. Jonathan in Savannah, what's going on?
Hey, what's going on, guys?
Not too much.
Yeah. I have two quick questions for you, and one I'd like you to ask Just Incredible when he comes on.
Okay.
But, with the Angle Lesnar match on SmackDown this week, are they gonna I'm assuming they're gonna have to have commercial breaks, or are they?
Oh yeah, they're gonna have to have a lot of commercial breaks in an hour, probably 4 sets. Or 3, it was 1. At least 15, 30, 45. 3 to 4 sets of commercial breaks in an hour, yeah.
I was hoping they weren't going to have too many.
Double before and after and have less.
They could if they wanted to. I presume that the commercial breaks will be when they do the pinfalls. Wouldn't that make sense?
Well, what I was thinking was if you have 4 commercial breaks during an hour and some stuff gets screwed up, you can edit it out and still make sure that the match goes 60.
Yes, you can.
So I figure that they'll have to have at least a couple for that, but I really don't picture them having like 4 in an hour. I think they'll double up before and after.
They could. Well, they could do the ring entrance and then do a bunch. They could do,
halfway and then a bunch after.
They're still going to need at least 3.
Yeah.
In an hour. They could have them go to a draw and then have a referee's decision and come back like from the commercial break with a referee's decision.
Yeah.
Not that they're going to do it because they won't, but they could.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It'll be interesting to watch, actually.
Yeah.
And my other question was about, I actually went out to the house show this past weekend or whatever, and I bought my Jericho highlight reel T-shirt. I noticed on the back, we already have the WrestleMania 20 logo on my T-shirt.
Really?
Yeah.
Well, you know what? WrestleMania 19 did not do nearly as well as they expected, and they are going to shove WrestleMania for a full year down our throats, if that's the right term. They're just going to do a full year of hype for that thing because, they're just counting on it doing big money.
They still sell out Madison Square Garden this time.
Well, like in 18 seconds.
Yeah. McMahon's are built on top.
Yeah.
So my question I just wanted you to ask Just Incredible, there are 2 questions. One about his thoughts on the writing team when he was there, was he on Raw?
He was on Raw. Yeah, that's right.
about Gerwitz. Gerwitz or whatever his name is.
Gerwitz, yeah.
And also about Triple H and I guess they're pals or whatever, and about how much stroke he's got back there. I know they asked him at the Ring of Honor show, and he kind of skirted around the question.
Well, then he probably will again, but we can ask him anyway. Yeah. Anyway, we'll be back with more. We got to take off. We'll be back with more right after this. You listen to the Wrestling Observer Live on the Sports Byline Radio Network. Okay, welcome back to Wrestling Observer Live. I'm Dave Meltzer, editor of Wrestling Observer Newsletter, with Bryan Alvarez of Figure 4 Weekly, and our special guest on the phone right now is PJ POLACO, Just Incredible. For the first time on this show in, seems like about 3 years. We used to have him on all the time when he was in ECW. How you doing?
Good. How you doing, Dave?
Doing really good. You know, you're in an interesting position because you were, until very recently, in the WWE, and now you pretty much are working for a lot of different independent groups around the country. And independent wrestling, I think it's become more significant, mainly because of a couple of groups. You know, TNA, which of course people see, and Ring of Honor and Major League Wrestling, I think, are very interesting because, you know, Major League Wrestling has TV on the Sunshine Network, so if you have DirecTV, it's kind of a national outlet, and they've drawn some pretty good crowds in Florida. And Ring of Honor is very, very innovative group. You know, I just love watching the tapes of that group. So, and you're working for, you know, plenty of stuff in the Northeast as well. I mean, kind of describe the, you know, I guess it's, you know, smaller crowds and things like that. But you know, how do you like working on the indie scene? And is it better than you expected or worse than you expected?
That's a great question. It's not Ring of Honor is great. It's hit and miss. Ring of Honor is one of the best experiences I've had since I've left the WWE, since I was let go or whatever. And whereas it's like it's back to, it resembles ECW as far as the crowd and real diehard fans and fans that appreciate good wrestling and innovative stuff. Not necessarily that I'm being so innovative, but the product itself is very innovative, and that's a lot of fun, and it really gets my juices flowing. It gets me excited about the business again. And I've gotten the opportunity to watch some MLW stuff, and I've actually been in contact with Court Bauer and stuff, and I'm looking forward to soon probably going to that group as well. But it's hard because with those positive experiences, you also get like recently I worked for a small independent group in Massachusetts where it was just a marked promoter pretty much had a bunch of money and just running shows, and you get treated kind of like it's just. You get both, a little bit of both worlds, but so far it's been an okay experience, not necessarily negative because, I've gotten a lot of things in my personal life a lot better and I'm a lot happier of a human being. But, professionally it's hit and miss, but, so far I'm taking it in stride, and it's not been the worst thing.
Now, when you were let go by WWE, I never talked to you about this, but just from reading different things, I got the impression that you wanted to get into real estate, and were you kind of burned out on wrestling, because I don't know. I would say, again, since we haven't talked about this, was the WWE this last time kind of a negative experience overall?
It really was, and I have actually. I've taken a real estate investment course, and that's kind of just because now I've got a 3-year-old son and stuff. I just have to independent wrestling. Like I said, it's not that bad. I'm able to make a living, but it's very hit and miss. So I've got to secure some kind of a future for my family. I own that, but at the same time, it was a negative experience because you work your whole life and your whole career to get to a certain level, and you work to get to that to the WWE. That's the show, and when you realize that it's you're working for really nothing, where financially I was Paul Heyman was paying me better in ECW than I was making in WWE at any time. I had better years with Paul than I ever did with Vince. So it's amazing that when you get there, your expectations are kind of shattered. And you feel like you know better because I've been there before, but you always have that optimism. You don't want to be negative, and you want to to try to do whatever, but it's just it's very disheartening, and it makes you wonder about the business. And me at 29 years old, being where I've been, it makes you think, God, what is this all for, and why are you putting your body through the sacrifices and your family through the sacrifices, personally, professionally? So it's a lot, and it was a real negative experience. It really took my juices out of the business and the love for the business. Obviously, why we get into it in the first place,
Now, do you think that it's a weird thing because I don't think this is overt, but I do think there's something to this as far as I think that something that's successful on a small, even if it's on a small level, but a lot of people talk about it, that there's a thing in WWE. I've always said where there's almost a resentment that, like this, more, that we didn't create it, we already know that exists. But like a lot of the guys who came from ECW, I'm not saying that somebody goes, they're from ECW, let's squash them, but I think that did you sense a mentality of, because they're from ECW, it doesn't count, and therefore, even if you start to get over, it doesn't count somehow?
I agree, and I don't necessarily. I'm not putting the blame on them. I may have dropped the ball. I'm not saying it was completely, their fault. I may have not been at my best at that point. But you're right. I don't.
But I mean, even with other people. I mean, like just an example is I'm going to throw the example out, which is Dreamer.
Yeah.
And that is, there have been times, when they'll do a hardcore thing or something like that. There's a thing about Dreamer where I think that the audience thinks he's better than they treat him because he was a big star in ECW, and when they kind of hint that they're going to do something with him, the audience kind of comes alive pretty big for him, and then in every case the audience ends up getting disappointed because they're not going to do anything with him.
It's amazing, and I was actually on a car ride from a show recently. I was talking to my wife about it, and it's like, in front of 1,100 people in Elizabeth, New Jersey, the crowd absolutely came electric when Tommy came out for the Raven CM Punk thing that they did there, and it's like those people know it, but it's like when it's in a different stage, it's almost like, well, we know we're not going to get that Tommy. Or so, you're right. You're touching on the exact thing we talked about, and I can't put a finger on it, but the fans are so much smarter these days, and they know that the WWE isn't really going to get behind people like that for whatever reasons it may be, and maybe maybe we're not all 6'5", 275 pounds, and I don't know if that's the case or what Vince, maybe Vince didn't create those stars, therefore he's not going to go with certain. I don't know what that answer is, but it's certain things that the fans do sense, and I think when they go to shows like Ringer and stuff, they get behind. Like I was petrified when I got let go. I thought, God, no one's going to want to hire me. I've been squashed for over a year on television. I'm absolutely, from where I was in ECW to where I came, I felt worthless, and going, when I did my first show for Ring of Honor in Boston, I got a tremendous ovation. It made me feel like, wow, that some fans do still remember, some fans do still appreciate it. But if I was back going to Boston in the Fleet Center wrestling WWE in an opening match, I'd get it wouldn't be the same response.
No, not at all.
You know what I mean? And it's amazing, and I can't put my finger on what exactly it is, but it is something,
Do you think it's all just like the change of scenery?
I don't know. I really don't. I'm trying to figure it out. I don't have an answer for it, but I don't know if it's the same fans. I don't think the same fans are going to the shows anymore that we're going. I really think it's a separate crew of fans that are going to Ring of Honor show. That's the best example because that's the most positive experience I've had recently, on the independent scene. I don't think those fans are going to the WWE shows because they know they're getting a certain kind of product, and I think they resent that product because they're pretty much being told what to get behind. I think I'm not sure.
Yeah, maybe they feel that they can't control it, whereas they know. You know what it is? I think that maybe at a Ring of Honor show, that if somebody does really, really good and you get behind them, they're going to be on top.
Right.
In WWE, if everyone gets behind someone and they've decided that that that's not their guy, they're going to come up with a reason why, even though they're getting over, they're not really getting over.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Did you find yourself the subject of a lot of ribbing on TV when you were there?
Not that I probably.
I have to ask this because I'll never forget this. There was one angle where Kurt Angle, you guys were all doing a promo or something, and he said something along the lines of, if you say your first name and your last name,
I remember the promo.
It sounds like just incredible. You had this look on your face like it was totally unscripted, and I thought, are they ribbing him on TV?
Nah, probably, dude. I don't doubt it. You know what? I never had illusions of grandeur. I'm going to be this big star there. I thought when I went in there, man, I honestly felt that Sean Waltman and I would have been a good utility tag team. We're both talented. I feel I have something to offer. I may not be, I may have been a main event status in ECW, and I understand that WWE is a completely different level. But I felt we could have done something, and I don't know what went wrong. Sometimes your guess is as good as mine. And towards the end, I totally dropped the ball, and I was completely misbehaving, and should have been fired probably. To be honest with you. But it just kills you. Sometimes the mentality, and I wonder why they do certain things. Because they have every talented human being in the world in that company, and they still aren't. In my opinion, I've truly not watched a show in so long. I'm not saying that to be cool or rebellious. I just haven't because it hasn't interested me. I'm truly a wrestling fan, and they can't compel me to watch that show. And that says something when they have every single talented human being on the planet.
Did you find that a lot of the guys did the same thing you did when they felt buried?
I took it to extremes. I was, doing crappy things, showing up late, doing things I shouldn't have been doing, but I think a lot of guys do. I was just to a point where, because when you're on the road as much as you are there, and when you're out there, I still put forth the best effort I could with whoever I was in there with, because you love the business, and you love to perform, and you love to do what you do. So, you're still doing the best you can, but when you're an opening match guy and you're being told you can only do so much, and, hip toss, arm drag, tackle drag, stuff like that, it's like, okay, when you're used to working a certain style on a certain level, and main eventing pay-per-views and so forth to an opening match and being told that you can't do any more than doing, it's disheartening. And when people are saying, just incredible, stunk the joint out, that night, it's like, well, I couldn't do any more than I was doing. And it's very hard as a professional, and to be on the road, being away from your loved ones and stuff, doing that, you start to wonder what's it all, you know what I mean? It just takes away all the fun. There's no fun in it. And the money, to be honest, was not that great. So there was really nothing going for me at the time.
Yeah. But let's go hold it. We got to head to a break right now. You can call Just Incredible at 1-800-877-PLAY, and we'll be back, or 878-PLAY, I should say. And we'll be back with more right after this. You're listening to the Wrestling Observer Live on the Sports Byline Radio Network. Okay, welcome back to Wrestling Observer Live. I'm Dave Meltzer, editor of the Wrestling Observer newsletter, with Bryan Alvarez, a Figure 4 Weekly special guest this week. Just Incredible, who's actually pretty much a veteran of pro wrestling, former East champion, now wrestling on the independent scene. And before we get to him in just a second, just want to remind everyone that for the latest wrestling information, you can go to www.wrestlingobserver.com, and there's also info on how to get subscriptions to both the Wrestling Observer newsletter that I put out every week and Figure 4 Weekly that Bryan puts out every week. Some of the best reading in professional wrestling. In fact, if you go up there right now, there's a special for the Observer. You can get a couple of classic issues covering the biggest stories in the history of wrestling and profiles of some of the legends, almost, some great profiles of wrestlers. You can get those free with a new subscription to the Observer, so you can go to the www.wrestlingobserver.com site. And let's get to Just Incredible. And I wanted to, you started your career. Your first real promotion that you worked for was WWF, kind of in one of the dark periods of the company. And then you pretty much made your name in ECW, and then came back to WWF after as ECW was going down. And when you left, or when you were there the first time, again it was not the greatest period in the history of that company. You came back, and it was pretty much the tail end of the greatest period in the history of that company, and then it started going down. How do you explain, or compare, when you first started, when you came back, and then, when you came back and it was at a high, and then kind of the period of it going down, how guys were taking it, especially the guys that weren't there the first time and only knew the WWF was a powerhouse, some of the younger guys, so to speak.
When I first came in, it's funny. It was like when Raw first started. Because I started as like a prelim guy in like '93 when Monday Night Raw first was being aired from the Manhattan Center, and I'm sure you guys remember they were billing it as like the new generation. I think it was, or something like that. That's ad campaign. And then, it was all those weird gimmicks with Mantar, Health, Aldo Montoya, and the Goon, and all those silly characters they tried to do. And, the money was bad, morale was bad, business was bad, and I left there in '97 to go, to ECW, and the business started heating up. And when I went back after ECW's collapse, pretty much, because I ended up working the last show that they had, was early 2001, I believe, when I went back to WWE, and it just, people never, it was still, we were, in the first time I was there, the money was so different than, guys were complaining about, great payoffs and something like that, whereas back then it's like, some guys were barely making $52,000 a year being on the road 200 plus days a year. I mean, that was my experience at least, where we really had something to be miserable about, where a lot of guys, now are probably still making, good six figures and complaining because, they never really had the experience. I mean, I learned a lot. That was one good thing that I had, and I'll never trade it for anything in the world. My first experience in WWF was tremendous because I learned from a lot of great guys that were there just by being around them and just listening and learning, and just by having, I guess, the business be so down, you just learn to appreciate everything. And even in the worst times when I was there recently, the payoffs were so better than anything else that a lot of us were getting. So it was never as bad as it ever as it was back in the early days. God, I feel like an old man saying that or something.
But what do you, as far as let's say that period, things were going really, really good, and it was really right after you got there. Not that you had anything to do with it, but when Austin turned heel was really like the catalyst. All of a sudden, business really took a tumble, and it never fully recovered. I mean, what did you sense like those guys? And that the guys that had been there last. From let's say 97, 98, because they really, from the Tess and Kurt Angles and Edge and Christian, all those guys, they all came in. So much of the roster really came in that 97, 98 period and only saw it go up. They started a certain level and it just was going to the moon. It was the biggest the company had ever been by far in 2000. And then all of a sudden, it's like, those of us who'd been around, we knew like it can't stay at this level. It's just not logical, and it will go down. But there were people who I know in that company who had not been around long enough, and they thought that it was always going to be like that.
Yeah, and I don't think a lot of people knew how to take it or to take it in stride. I mean, it's amazing because I don't think it will ever get. I hope it doesn't. I mean, for the boys and for the business, I don't think it will ever get to the level it was at when I was there. I mean, it's just guys don't. I guess it sounds maybe silly to say, but I don't think guys realize how good they have it unless they were there when money was really down. Because there were times. You know, I remember being in a show in Del Mar, California with Bam Bam Bigelow and Sid Vicious in the main event in a cage match where I took a $200 draw and owed the office $50 because my payoff was $150.
Yeah.
And, you know, and that these days would be unheard of. I mean, even, you know, I was a prelim guy, you know, when I was last there, and I never got a payoff less than, you know, $500-600.
Yeah.
You know, and I think if guys saw that stuff, they would, you know, I think the guys got spoiled in a way because they, you know, the hardships were just, it was just different, you know. You can't compare it. And business is different, and then the economy is different, and just I guess it's a little bit of everything. But the disappointment is, I really don't think people know how good they have it there. They really don't, unless they're at this level where I am now. Unless you're, you know, when you're not there, you realize a lot. You know, and you don't have it as bad as you think you do.
Now, physically, style of wrestling. I mean, like I think that, you know, and pretty much ECW was a lot of it. You know, I mean, the style of wrestling that you've been with, then the ECW style, which, you know, kind of went to WWE. I mean, they didn't go quite as far, but they went to a more, you know, a physically tougher style. And, you know, you were there when everyone was getting hurt, and now that they're kind of toning back the style. I mean, what's your thoughts as far as how much punishment you can do, how hard, you know, style-wise, physically doing the 4 shots a week?
You know, it's the 4 shots a week. It's the days that kill you. I felt ECW, and this is going to sound weird. ECW was easier on my body, believe it or not, than WWE was, because you know, we were doing it 2-3 times a week max, but the rings were a little. The ECW ring was easier on the body. And the style there, it's a little more intense than I think people realize. The guys are way bigger. And that makes a big difference, and the impact is a lot heavier, and, you know, it takes a bigger toll on your body. The travel takes a toll on your body. You get more run down, which leads to, you know, fatigue, and, you know, some people, you know, I think it's more of the scheduling than anything, because, you know, I was doing things, I was going through tables every night, you know, doing a lot of what people consider hardcore stuff, and I felt a lot better than I did, you know, going 4 nights a week doing opening matches with Shelton Benjamin, doing basic stuff. So, you know, I think it was just the amount of work that was, you know, that we were doing and trying to work out and trying to stay in shape, which I really didn't do too much towards the latter end. I looked pretty crappy, but, you know, it's a combination of just trying to keep up and trying to manage, you know, being away, being at home, and just it's a balance, you know, and you have to really be on your game to be able to do their style and to do, you know, the schedule. The schedule is what kills you more than anything, more than the physicality, I think.
No, was the schedule easier for you than, say, 93, 94? Because, I mean, those days, I sense that there was a lot of 6-night weeks, 7 nights, things like that, whereas it really was, you know, pretty much per week, you know, on the, you know, this last time around.
The scheduling was easier this time around, because I remember being on the road, and sometimes I remember going overseas one time for like 14 days and wrestling for 14 days. I mean, I was a lot younger then, too, so, I mean, physically it wasn't as bad maybe on myself, but, you know, these days, you know, 4 days on, I mean, the style's a little different as well, but, you know, back then it was so grueling, it was ridiculous. I mean, these days, it's, you know, 4 days is still a lot, because, you know, guys are working as hard as they can, and the style has changed, but, you know, it's very demanding on the body, but back then it was insanity. I don't think I could do it today.
What is your schedule like these days?
Some days, like this past week, I did 2 days. The week before, I was fortunate enough to do 3. Some weeks I do none. You know, it really differs. It's a crapshoot. You know, sometimes you get, you know, depending on the promotions that are running, and depends on, you know, a lot of times you get 3 promoters calling you for the same show, so you really, it's tough. Independent wrestling is really, you gotta hustle. If you hustle, you can make a decent living, but it's, you know, you have to really, you know, work your butt off to get bookings and to stay active in the wrestling, you know, community, I guess.
What was your thoughts as far as TNA goes?
I thought it was positive. I thought politically it was for, you know, the financial, what they're paying guys, at least my experience, I'm going to be very open about it, what they're paying guys, and the political situation, it's like there's no the reward is ridiculous. There's no reward, because I don't know what the viewership is. I don't know how many fans watch the shows, but they know you need them, and you're going out there working as hard as you can, and getting the payoffs are kind of silly. I wasn't making very much money when I was doing TNA, and at the same time, the political game is pretty heavy for being a small promotion. I mean, just dealing with, and I didn't have any negative experiences with, Russo and those guys. There was nobody, at least personally treated me bad, but you could just tell that the stuff was going on, and there was already games being played, and it's like, God, for a couple $100 for one day, it's like, how much is it really worth my stress? That's what it comes down to when you've been in the business as long as I have, and not to sound negative, but it's like, how much is it worth going through the perils of the BS that you deal with? Like, I just came out of BS. I can't handle it if I'm not making, at least if I'm going to get paid well. That sounds like, it's all about money, but if you're going to go through BS, at least get paid.
Yeah. We've got to go ahead and do a break right now. We're going to be back with more with Just Incredible right after this. You're listening to Wrestling Observer Live on the Sports Byline Radio Network. Okay, welcome back to Wrestling Observer Live. I'm Dave Meltzer, editor of the Wrestling Observer newsletter, with Bryan Alvarez for 4 weeks. Guest this week, Just Incredible. And I want to ask you, Lucha Extreme Wrestling, I think they're running their debut show in New York in a couple of weeks. What can you tell us about that group?
So far, they're planning on running every month, and from what I understand, I just spoke to the promoter before I went on the air with you guys. They're planning on running in different locations around the country, and they're actually planning on going into Mexico and England, from what I hear, and I guess this stuff is already in the process. So they plan on being a big alternative to, it's apparently not just going to be like some indie little federation, I guess. They're really planning on running something national, and I think, unless I'm being lied to, there's
that'd be a first.
Plans in the yeah, right. I'm gullible too. I'm hook, line, and sinker. But it apparently should be something that will be out there on I think they have television plans for a Latin outlet or something like that. So it promises to be good. I'm working with La Parca on the first show on September 27th in Queens and New York, and I'm looking forward to it. It sounds like really good stuff. I'm looking forward to it.
Okay, let's go to the phone calls. We're going to go to Donnie in New York City. Donnie, your first up.
How you doing, Justin? How are you?
What's up, man?
I got some questions for you. I'm from New York. I saw this online about this LXW show, and the thing that sparked my interest, I saw that you're going to be teaming up with Jason Knight again.
Yeah.
What's on that?
They just the promoter wants the what the ECW formula, the Just Incredible heel character with Jason Knight, sexiest man on earth, and they have a female manager. I think that girl, I never worked with her before, but Veronica Kane from XPW, she's going to be in there with us too. So it'll be interesting,
That was one of my favorite things with you in ECW was the interaction you had with Jason Knight, because I thought you guys worked very, very well together.
I enjoyed Jason. Jason and I always had a different relationship. We were not the closest of friends like that, but there was always a certain weird chemistry about us. I can't explain it. I don't know what it is. But we always had it, and he's a cool dude. And I'm just looking forward to doing it again. With the different thing here is, I'm going to be doing the old heel character, and lately with Ring of Honor, the Booker Gabe Sapolsky's trying to do, we're trying to do a different kind of Just Incredible, something different, something new, something fresh, almost towards a babyface character, and it'll be cool to play the old heel character, but I'm kind of looking forward to doing something different. I don't want to be a retro actor. I kind of want to find myself, and who knows, but it'll be cool to get back with Jason.
Awesome, dude. Thank you.
Okay. In WWE with they've got their own formula on things. In the last couple of years or so, especially the last year, on the Raw side more than the SmackDown side, and that was the side you were on. What were your thoughts? As far as, or did you really even care as far as the way the writing was going and the direction things were going? As far as trying to build everything to the joke instead of trying to build everything toward a match type of thing?
Yeah, it was, at that point, I was so numb to it, I didn't even look. I knew there was nothing, at least for myself, I knew there was nothing in it for me. I knew, I pretty much knew my time was numbered. I think, and no matter how, what I did, I really paid no attention to what was going on. Their writing is very, in my opinion, it's so they're just right for the moment. They're not. I don't think anything is long term. I think back then they knew where they're 6 months down the line, a year down the line, they knew what WrestleMania main event was going to be, and they would book towards that, appropriately. Now I think they're flying from seat of their pants, and they're just trying to. And sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. But a lot of times, I have no clue, and it compromises a lot of the storylines and the angles for certain guys. But for myself, I had no. I stopped following the WWE after the first year I was in it. Is that bad for me? Is that bad of an experience? It was that negative that I could care less what I was doing. I didn't even stick around for the shows. I would have my match, sometimes first match, dark match, and get the hell out of there. That was how bad it was. And I'm a wrestling fan. I love this business, and that's how. At least for me, how much they dragged it down for me.
When Lance Storm came in, and you guys did some tag teaming, and not a lot, but you did a little bit here. I remember seeing you at a show in probably San Jose, but it was in the Bay Area. You had some of the chemistry. Some people knew you, but it was an ECW team, and it's kind of like I don't know. You probably only teamed together for a couple weeks. It seemed like. I mean, did you think like, okay, now maybe I have a chance because we have chemistry and we get along really good, or did you just go, well, it's an ECW idea, so I know it's going nowhere anyway?
No, that was when there were sparks in there like that situation where I thought, hey, this might be a chance, and the creative team approached us about it, and we were both very positive about it because I remember at the time Lance, they weren't really doing anything with him as well, so we were both excited about it because we enjoyed working with each other. I mean, Lance trained me in the business, he helped pretty much make me, and when I was to Calgary in '92, and it was a great experience, and we both were really into doing it. And we felt we could do it and be a good, because that's one thing they didn't have much of, were good tag teams at the time. I mean, they had plenty, but they were in those, they were breaking some of them up at the time. I think Edge and Christian were probably starting to go their own way, and the Hardys were, getting ready to go in their own way. So it's like, what a great opportunity. And, and when it didn't materialize, it was just like, wow. If this isn't going to work, what is? And for me, I always thought that the tag team scene would have been a great scene for me because I knew I wasn't going to be a huge main event star in the WWE. I felt my niche might have been in a tag team situation. So when that washed away, I was like, that's like you get your hopes up and then it shoots down. You get your hopes up and it shoots down. It's like after a while, you just stop believing, kind of, and it stung for us at least.
What was your relationship like with Paul Heyman during that second run?
To be honest, there's no hard feelings with us at all, but as close as we were in ECW the whole time through, there was really no relationship at all. He kind of strayed away from me, and he had bigger fish to fry. He had bigger toys to play with there, and I understood. I mean, there was, nothing that I know, no dissent or no hard feelings, but, we were just, I think his project at the time was RVD and trying to get other guys over, and I think he realized that Just Incredible in WWE probably wasn't going to do too much, so I don't think he really ever pushed for me, or it was just one of those situations, and then there's, like I said, there's no dissent or hard feelings about it, but we really, compared to the relationship we had in ECW, it just completely disintegrated to we barely spoke, which sucked because I really liked it.
When you first went to ECW, I think did you come out of Memphis to ECW? Was that kind of the thing? Mm-hmm. So Memphis, you were kind of sent by kind of like what would now be called WWF developmental, sent to Memphis to gain seasoning, and then you wound up in and Memphis didn't really do a whole lot, and then ended up in ECW where you pretty much from the beginning, they got behind you, Paul got behind you, and you were pretty much a player from when you started until the promotion went belly up.
Mm-hmm. It was, that's one thing I can never say anything bad about Paul because, for any negative things he may have, anything, caused in my life financially or whatever with monies and stuff, he gave me a unique opportunity and he believed in me from day one, and he knew how to, the right word might be how to manipulate and make me believe I'm more than I am or whatever, and that's what he did with a lot of guys. I think he had everybody there believing that we were all somebody, and, It helped. It showed. I mean, he gave us the confidence. That's one thing Paul Heyman is a great motivator, and he taught me how to be just incredible because PJ is just a normal dude, just very humble, very shy kind of, and when I was just incredible, which I don't think I brought that to the table in WWE too. That's why I never blame them fully. I think a lot of that, I think I was intimidated pretty much up there too, and didn't let loose, but I think that's one thing Paul always did was believe in me and brought me to that next level. So I can, I never have anything negative to say about him because without him, I would have never been anything, I guess.
This is interesting. Now, how much would you say? Because I remember like with some of the guys in WCW that I had seen before they were in WCW, and they were like really good, and then they got to WCW, and WCW wasn't doing anything with them, and then all of a sudden they got to be not all that good. And when I would talk to them, you could tell that they had lost. It was really the confidence. How much does confidence play when you're going out there?
It is everything to do with it because I feel like I have. I have the ability. I have as much ability, and I'm not getting carried away here, but I have as much ability as a lot of guys there. I mean, there are a lot more talented guys in the company than me, but when it comes down to basics and knowing how to work, I know how to work, and, confidence to me takes you to that next level, and in ECW, I guess I knew I had Paul, I had people backing me up, I knew the company was behind me, so I can go out there and be myself, and I guess going to WWE, I knew, I guess maybe from my first experience, I was still trying to be the humble PJ, not realizing where I had been in ECW and not taking, you know what I mean? Like I was still going there, and I saw Taker and guys, that have been there for a while. It's like all of a sudden I'm just that 19-year-old kid again, and I lost a lot of that step that I had. I was in ECW, so I think confidence has everything to do with it, to be honest with you.
Let's go to Derek in Buffalo. Derek, what's going on?
Hey, what's going on, guys?
Not too much.
Yeah, I just wanted to tell a pretty cool story about Justin. In '99, they came to Buffalo for November to Remember, and they had a autograph signing at a place called Broadway Market. And I was a really big Justin Credible fan. I waited in line all day. Went up to Justin. I told him that I really missed his old finishing move, which was the spinning tombstone, because he reverted to doing a regular tombstone pile driver. And Justin got up out of his chair, and he got up in front of all my friends, and he said, tonight I'm going to give the spinning tombstone to Sandman. And I went to the pay-per-view that night, and it turned out that's what he did. It was really cool. It meant a lot to me as a fan, and I just want to thank him again for that.
You know what, man? The way I take stuff like that is I was just a fan, and not like be like, oh, that's so cool and all, but I really was. I mean, that's the only reason I got into it. I never thought I could make a dime in this business. I was always, too small, too whatever, and to me, when I hear stuff like that, I still get jazzed when people say stuff like that. To me, it's a pretty cool feeling, when you're sitting in your living room watching TV, having people say, yeah, you're just an incredible fan. I don't take it all that, too seriously, because I don't take myself too seriously, especially this business too seriously, but it makes you feel good. So when, people appreciate stuff, it's like, gee, how hard is it for you to please fans? It's like, this is, they give you the platform to do what you love, so it's kind of cool. So that's the least you can do, right? It's definitely experience, it's awesome.
Well, I hope to see you again on TV more often. Maybe back in TNA, and just thanks for everything you've done in your career.
Cool, man. Thank you, dude.
All right, guys.
Okay, we're going to go ahead to our final commercial break. We'll be back with more with Justin Credible right after this. You're listening to Wrestling Observer Live on the Sports Byline Radio Network. Okay, welcome back to Wrestling Observer Live. I'm Dave Meltzer, editor of the Wrestling Observer newsletter with Bryan Alvarez of Figure 4 Weekly. Special guest, Justin Credible. We're running low on time, but I wanted to ask you, as far as, now that you've been out on the indie scene and everything like that and seen a lot of different guys, what guys that you've either worked with or watched impress you the most, as far as, I'm not saying, where you go, they live up to the hype or they're better than I heard, or maybe even some guys who, you heard so much about and you're going I don't know if they're really that good.
Who I'm impressed with? Guys mostly the Ring of Honor guys, but guys like Samoa Joe, AJ Styles, he's as good as people say he is. I haven't worked with him, but watching his stuff, I think he's got a lot of future in this business, and I think he's going to, be a big player in the business. I hope he is. He's a great guy too. But, Ring of Honor crew they're the real deal, and, a lot of guys in TNA as well, the regulars, of course, like the Ravens and D-Los, and those guys are always, to me, always been great and always been solid. Some guys like the Sonny Siakis, they're still, I think are talented, but still have a long way to go. But, there's definitely a good crop of talent out there, that are getting breaks. Guys like Paul London, who just got signed to developmental, I think, hopefully he does well. And, I think there's a lot of talented players out there. I think there's a great generation to come.
Now, the difference with a lot of guys, especially on the independent scene and everything, is from, say, 10 years ago, is a lot of the best wrestlers coming up are 195-pound guys, 200-pound guys, and even smaller. Whereas 10 years ago, pretty much everybody was 240. When you were coming in, you were a really little guy. Now you're probably in a dressing room and you're bigger than most guys.
It's unbelievable. I mean, the impression I got when I first tried to even get into wrestling, I thought I had to be heavily on, anabolic steroids to just compete with these guys. And now, I'm the smallest I've ever been in the business. I'm like, 195, 200 pounds. And I am bigger. Like you said, I am bigger than most guys in the locker room. It's amazing. But at the same time, they're also doing some of the most amazing things I've done that I probably could never do if I wanted to either.
But what do you think as far as, like, the future of... especially with Vince McMahon's mentality, the future of the business when the most talented guys are small guys now?
I think it's going to be great. It's going to be a testament to what the fans want. I think the fans are ultimately going to dictate it, and I think it's already starting now. I think the backlash is starting with guys that are 275. I think the fans are, even though guys like Hunter can go and can work, I think eventually it's going to come down to, guys like Ray Jr. and guys that have always been able to go, and guys like, the Ring of Honor crew, guys that are, the smaller people. I think that's eventually where the business is going. It may take 5 years or so, but I think fans are really starting to notice and to get the impression that that's what they want to see.
Okay, we are totally on it. Thank you very much.
Thank you, guys. Thank you, Dave.
Okay, and good luck on Lucha Extreme Wrestling and Ring of Honor and everywhere else. And we'll talk to you again very soon. You're listening to Wrestling Observer Live on the Sports Byline Radio Network.